Welcome to the Security Weekly News Wrap-Up for the week of 12 July 2020. Twitter was hacked, if you haven't heard. TikTok bans continued. The TikTok wars just won't go away. Cozy Bear, Huawei bans, social engineering, and Sir Walter Raleigh in a can. All this and more on Security Weekly News Wrap-Up.
This is Security Weekly. For security professionals, by security professionals.
We interrupt our program to bring you this important message.
It's the show that keeps you up to date on the latest security news twice a week. Your trusted source for accurate security information and expert analysis. It's time for Security Weekly News. The question is simple. Have any of the systems on my network been compromised? The answer is harder than it should be. Enter AI Hunter. Active Countermeasures has automated and streamlined techniques used by the best pen testers and threat hunters in the industry to create AI Hunter, a network threat hunting solution that does the first pass of a hunt for you to identify systems that are most likely to be compromised and scores the results on a scale from 0 to 100. You can then research those systems in depth with AI Hunter. Focus your valuable time on the systems that need your expertise with AI Hunter. Sign up for a personal demo today at securityweekly.com/ACM.
Hello, I'm Doug White from Roger Williams University on the set in front of the door to nowhere. Actually, that's a real door. It does go somewhere. I think it goes to the bathroom, but, whatever. I'm your host, and welcome to the Security Weekly News Wrap-Up Show. Let's do all the show topics for this week. On Application Security Weekly number 114, Mike, Matt, and John had an interview with Judy Ngure, a cybersecurity engineer at Africa Stalking. This interview was about security testing as a component of DevSecOps. Judy talked about techniques for finding flaws, clear report writing, and modern AppSec testing. So an interesting segment. On Business Security Weekly number 180, Paul and Matt had the quarterly security money update of the Security Weekly 25 index and the NASDAQ. I like this show a lot because I always look forward to it because I always want to think about ways I could invest all the money I actually don't have. But if I had it, I would invest it. On Enterprise Security Week, if you want to send me some to invest it, that would be fine. I might spend it on cigars, though. On Enterprise Security Weekly, there wasn't a show, so they did not have a show this week. Everybody was sad. On the Security Weekly News, number 49, Jason Wood talked about the TrickBot sample that warned victims that they were infected, and a lot more about TrickBot. So if you're interested, I always like to talk about TrickBot a lot, and Jason came on and was sort of giving an overview of that particular thing, which is a fun tool to play with if you have your security lab at home and you want to download something to fiddle around with. TrickBot's a pretty good one. TrickBot is good. Emotet is pretty interesting. I also have a Chatterbot, which is kind of fun to play with. I taught it to swear, so that was like my great accomplishment. On Security and Compliance Weekly number 35, Jeff, John, Josh, and Scott had an interview with Brian Tremblay, the director of SOC Cyber Audit and Compliance in Sales at Anapsys. That conversation was basically around how security misconfigurations and vulnerabilities can lead to compliance problems and the continuous compliance process that you might be undertaking. And that they did that in a two-part interview because that's a pretty big topic. A lot of us that did SOX auditing spent a lot of time around that subject for many, many years. On Paul's Security Weekly number 658, alas, I did not get my quarantine clearance until 8:30 last night, so it was too late to get to the show. I was really disappointed too. The first segment, and I really wanted to be there for this segment, was with Ankur Chaudhary and was about AI, ML, and security at scale and how AI and ML scale if they do at all. And I was very sorry that I missed it. Ankur, I really wanted to hear what you had to say about that. And I actually haven't watched that yet, so I don't spoil it for me, but I'm going to go back and watch it today. I was equally distraught to miss meeting our newest host, John Snyder, the CEO of Agnes Intelligence. And John is a major force in the tech industry, and he's a huge addition to the lineup of hosts on Security and Compliance Weekly. So I was really hoping to be there. John replaced Matt Alderman on that show starting this week. And so if you haven't seen him on there yet, you can catch him on either Security and Compliance Weekly from this week, or as he was a guest on Security Weekly last night. And I am sorry I missed it, but I was taking the quarantine opportunity to hang out with the family and drink gin and tonics at home for a change. So that was what we were doing. But all that, and then there's the news. So my favorite threat of the week this week is going to be social engineering. The very first pen test I ever did, and it wasn't called a pen test then, but it involved social engineering. I mean, it really did. That was one of the main components of it, because I really truly felt in 1987 was when I was doing that. In 1987, I really and truly felt that one of the great threats to the business where I was doing this pen test was social engineering and the use of that to compromise the physical security and through that the virtual security and digital security there. We use phishing, and it wasn't called phishing then. There's no such thing. We use costumes, the whole works. I even had a fake badge made. I've told that story at some cons before. But I mean, this is what Mitnick used, right? So, I mean, Mitnick was using that very technique with the clipboard and the hat and all that kind of stuff. Everyone used social engineering. Why did they use it? Because it works. I mean, I'm sorry, but it has to be said. It works. I was standing on this pier in Israel once, and I was thinking, there were people working here thousands of years ago. And then here comes this guy, and he's trying to sell me this like silver bracelet or something. And I was thinking, 2,000 years ago, that same guy was trying to sell that same fake silver necklace to some Roman sailor. And here we are today. Because it works. Those kind of social engineering cons have been working for as long as things are around, and it keeps on working. We train everyone over and over and over again. I have been to those trainings. You've been to those trainings. You've recommended those trainings. I've recommended those trainings to not give out OSINT information over the phone, to not give your information to some guy named Vince who sends you an email and claims to be from the Secret Service. But somebody will. I mean, somebody will do it. And, I mean, the training helps, and it gets some people to stop it, but it doesn't stop it altogether because it's an infinite series. There were probably cave people who got social engineered at Swanscombe or somewhere. It's like 400,000 years ago. Hey, Og, me inherit really fine rocks from Homo sapiens. I share rock with you if you just help me pay rock tax so I can get the rock through rock customs. I mean, 400,000 years ago, that kind of stuff was going on. Today, it's just a constant barrage of calls, emails, tweets, text, you name it. We come up with names for all this stuff, smishing, phishing, whatever. And we spend a lot of time and money training people in our organizations on how to deal with it, and they still fall for it over and over again. I mean, look at Twitter. And we're going to talk about Twitter in a little bit, but Twitter got hosed, and all this big shot verified accounts got compromised. And was it some zero-day masterpiece of assembly coding? Nope. It was social engineering. We've only had 400,000 years or so of history, and we had 400,000 years of Neanderthal on Homo sapien and Homo sapien on Neanderthal crime to figure this thing out, and we're still falling for it. I mean, the Neanderthals are gone, but we're still falling for it. I blame their genes, though. I think we probably have some of those. I have updated my own thoughts about this recently to just move in to the next step and move the kill chain along and not worry about the front. I mean, we still do the training, but to just move to that next place in the kill chain and say, let's stop it and assume it's going to happen. Face the fact that Homo sapiens are no smarter than Neanderthals in this regard, and they're going to keep falling for this crap until some new species evolves that has like some kind of genetic predisposition toward not getting social engineered. So gear up for the bumpy ride of social engineering, and let's find a way to prevent this. Right, yeah, it's not going to happen. But we are the thin binary line between order and chaos. And I know a binary line is not really a line. It's sort of discrete. And okay, enough. No math jokes. It's like it says that on the monitor. Don't do math jokes. All right. So let's do the Twitter story. So basically, a bunch of high-profile Twitter accounts for people like Elon Musk and Bill Gates, Apple, Joe Biden, pretty much anyone that mattered except Donald Trump. Dun, 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 dun. And, there was all this stuff about and I already saw a whole pile of conspiracy theories about this, that did Trump do this? Did Trump not do this? Was Trump spared because the person who was doing it was a Trump supporter? Who knows? But everybody got hit in this attack. And these were verified Twitter accounts, which supposedly means that they're legit, right? Twitter went out and described the attack then as a coordinated social engineering attack targeting Twitter employees, which allowed the attackers to get internal access and go after high-end verified accounts. Now, it appears, anyway, that this was a pure cash grab, so it wasn't some kind of politically motivated thing. And basically, the tweet started around 1500 Eastern Daylight Time on the 15th. And they asked followers to go to a website called Crypto for Health. The website was trying to get people to donate Bitcoin to the site. So, and of course, these tweets came from people like Bill Gates saying, I will match. I think the Bill Gates one said, I will match every donation, and so on and so forth. Bloomberg reported that by 1645 Eastern Daylight Time, the account had gathered around 12 Bitcoins. So that's like, what, $50,000? Is it $50,000 or something? Bezos, Obama, Warren Buffett, pretty much a huge list of verified accounts from both companies and individuals were used to send out this request. So likely, or maybe not, more information about the attack and how it's being dealt with will be forthcoming from Twitter. Krebs went on and indicated that the attack emerged from a user named Chewan in the SIM swapping community, who was advertising that particular site could change any email tied to literally, and it said if you look at the Krebs article, you can see the actual post. Literally any Twitter account for $250. So they said they would give you a refund if it didn't work, but they could change any email on any Twitter account for $250, and they would provide direct access to any Twitter account for $2,000 to $3,000, depending on what account it was. To anyone. I don't know how they were managing all this, but basically this was being advertised on the OG Users Forum, if you're familiar with that place, which is a big SIM swapping site, among other things. I thought the Krebs article offered the most thorough workup on the event, so if you're interested in reading about exactly what happened and how it sort of developed. Now, he obviously doesn't have inside information from Twitter, so there's still no description of exactly who was compromised or how the social engineering worked. But you can probably figure that out, right? Because it's not that complicated. I mean, they've sent some phishing emails, they get somebody to go for it, and boom, they're in. So, social engineering. Donald Trump, the President of the United States, confirmed that the United States did indeed conduct a covert cyber attack against Russian internet troll farm IRA in 2018. That's the one in St. Petersburg. They always show pictures of the building. This was in advance of the 2018 midterm elections in the United States. It represented one of the only times to date that the United States has actually acknowledged conducting cyber attacks on another nation state. Now, of course, theoretically, it was not an attack on a nation state. It was an attack on an asset of a nation state. And of course, the nation state, Russia, has denied repeatedly that group is affiliated with Russia, as you might expect. Other attacks on Iran have been acknowledged in the past. And this article then went on to report, that I put another article up there, that Donald Trump also signed in 2018 an authorization for conducting such activities. So this is called a secret authorization. So this is when the President of the United States signs a kind of order that is kept secret to allow the CIA to conduct an operation. So according to former U.S. officials who are not named in the article, so they're just former officials, the authorization that Trump signed in 2018 gave the CIA more freedom in conducting such operations and who they would be able to target with their covert cyber force. Now, if you're not familiar with the United States has an organization called the Central Intelligence Agency who focuses only on activities outside the United States, theoretically. So that's where the State Department focuses on activities inside the United States, but the CIA can operate outside the United States, and they're not supposed to be doing stuff inside the United States. But who knows? They're a secret organization. The authorization Trump gave specifically named Russia, China, Iran, and North Korea. But the interpretation by these officials said that the authorization may well allow other attacks on non-named nation states as well. Russian hackers called App29, which is the group known often as Cozy Bear, have apparently been conducting a campaign against the United States, the United Kingdom, and Canada, and they've been specifically targeting vaccine research and development operations that are focused on developing vaccines for COVID-19. There was a lot of chatter this week in the news about whether or not this targeting is about disrupting those operations, or it seems more commonly that they're trying to steal the vaccine that are being developed. So they're trying to steal the R&D. Something that Russia has been accused of many, many times, all the way back into the good old USSR days, of stealing things from the West and then reproducing them in the Soviet Union, which is why used to be a lot of vehicles that were made. The first time I was like anywhere near like East Germany and I saw the Soviet vehicles that looked like 55 Chevys and stuff, it was because they had taken the plans apparently and were making them over there. Cozy Bear is believed to be responsible as well for the people that accessed the Democratic National Committee's internal systems and email servers prior to the 2016 presidential election. So they're kind of famous for that. The report that was here came from the United Kingdom's National Cybersecurity Center. The assessment was then endorsed by Canada, the United States, their CISA, DHS, and the NSA all signed off on this report. Russia has, of course, denied any involvement in this. Renewed focus on Huawei came up this week as the United States National Security Advisor Richard O'Brien. Hey, Richard O'Brien, sorry about that. The United States Security Advisor Robert O'Brien, not related to Richard O'Brien of Rocky Horror Picture Show fame. Robert O'Brien announced that more countries are waking up to the threat of Huawei. Earlier in the week, the United Kingdom announced that it was banning Huawei entirely from its rollout of 5G, and they've been talking about that for quite some time. The United States has been exerting a lot of pressure in that direction. This is one of the specific targets of the Trump administration's focus on China. So they've really focused a lot on Huawei, and in particular, Huawei's support of 5G, because there's not a lot of companies producing 5G equipment in the world at this point in time. Other EU countries are considering and or already limiting Huawei use. According to this article, the United States has been advocating that Huawei components may provide China a backdoor into networks that would allow for spying and capture of vast amounts of personal data off of a 5G network. Australia, New Zealand, India, France, the Netherlands, and Italy are all placing limitations on 5G gear already. And limiting Huawei's access to those markets. And the United States has been trying to get European countries to limit all this for months and months. The U.S. has already announced that visa restrictions on Huawei and other restrictions on this Wednesday, and has been moving to restrict Huawei use through supply chains, out-and-out bans of their products, and so on since last year. And much like other areas, Huawei is a focus of the Trump administration in their sort of trade war with the People's Republic of China. The U.S. also announced that strong action was coming based on the Trump administration's calls to ban TikTok. TikTok, which is a popular video app that a lot of people use to, film themselves dancing, singing, playing pranks with cats, all kinds of stuff. The one I've seen most recently is the one where you pretend to get a call on a cat. Yeah, I've thought about making one of those, but I think my cats would disembowel me if I tried that. These controversial calls would mean implementation of some sort of great firewall in the United States, as it would be necessary to have such a thing in order to prevent the video app from actually being used and connecting to its home server. It's not clear how such a ban would be imposed in the United States, which does not currently have a great firewall like the People's Republic of China, or if there was such a ban, if it's even legal under the U.S. Constitution. The target, of course, of this ban is ByteDance. They're the developer and owner of TikTok, It is a Chinese company that is in the People's Republic of China, which means essentially that it can be government controlled or not. I mean, the government in China has the ability to step into these companies and say, here's what you're going to do. The TikTok focus seems to be emerging, like the Huawei bans, from the intense focus placed on China by the Trump administration. The basis for the ban is an allegation that TikTok collects and shares user data with the government of the People's Republic of China. But there are large numbers of apps in both Google and App Stores that are produced and based in China. India banned 59 of these Chinese apps last week, but that isn't even a scratch of the surface. And it's not clear if a ban in the United States would somehow expand to cover all Chinese apps or if it's just TikTok. So, I don't know. And I don't know how much of it's political, how much of it's realistic, and I don't even know if it's doable. So, if Apple's going to put stuff in their store, essentially, I'm not sure how you ban those things. But anyway, we'll see. Back on the routers, last week we saw a large number of remote code execution flaws in various router platforms, and I won't reiterate them all here because you can go watch those episodes if you want to see all the details from that. But this week, Cisco released security advisories about vulnerabilities that apply to obsolete routers. So these are no longer sold, and firewalls that they manufactured. CVE 2020-3330, 3323, 3144, and 3331. I put all of them in the wiki. Were all issued, and they impacted various Cisco products that are no longer sold. But the flaws were patched because all of these affected devices were not at the end of support. They were just at end of sales. The vulnerabilities were more of these RCE-type issues that were discovered after F-Secure revealed that they had found 2 counterfeit Cisco switches, which I guess are, just like fake Cisco devices that were being sold. And this led to the discovery of these other flaws, and then Cisco released patches for these devices that were out there. Zoom announced that they had addressed the vanity URL 0-day. This vanity URL feature was allowing companies to set up Zoom meetings with a domain name that had their company name and then a landing page that had logos and branding on the page. Attackers were able to easily modify the URL invite slightly so it still looked correct, and then redirect the meeting to a controllable page. And then what was happening was people were getting told to come to a meeting of HR or something at X Corp. And when you responded to the meeting and said, yes, I'll attend, it was possible then to very easily social engineer, one more time, social engineer employees and customers on these fake meeting pages with fake employees or whatever, telling people, okay, now that we're in the private room, you need to give me all your personal information and your bank account numbers and everything else. But it did seem to originate from the actual company. So yet another type of phishing attack that worked very well. Zoom did announce that they had fixed this issue that was originally reported by Checkpoint. And finally, at the prank master level, a Russian prankster pretending to be the United Nations Secretary General managed to get a call through to Poland's President Duda. I don't know how to say that. If Marcin was here, you could tell me, but he's not, so he's at home. I know he's out there screaming and banging his fist on the table about my mispronunciation of a Polish name. I read everything. The 11-minute call from Vladimir Kuznetsov was posted on YouTube, and I put a link to it if you want to watch it. It actually was in English, and so if you're interested in prank, really high-level prank calls, this is one of those. He did not ask him if he had Sir Walter Raleigh in a can, which is a really, really old prank that no one today actually gets. Sir Walter Raleigh was a brand of snuff that was sold in little cans, if you don't get that. I know any joke you have to explain is not really a joke. But anyway, master-level prank calling there. If you want to watch it, I put the link in the wiki. And that's a news wrap-up for the week of 12 July 2020. In the time of plague, I'm Doug White from the already online Roger Williams cybersecurity program. We'll see you next week on the network that never sleeps, Security Weekly. Read the science, please.